Hey guys, it's Zach back with another review, this time of the Gamakay X Naugh NS68. It is a budget to super budget Hall effect keyboard. It comes in a variety of versions, one of which is actually sub $40 on Amazon. It is the cheapest MSRP Hall effect keyboard that I have reviewed thus far, but will this become my top budget Hall effect keyboard recommendation? Let's find out. So here we have it, the Gamakay X Naugh NS68. Very small form factor. Takes some design inspiration after Wooting, as most of the keyboards in this price range do. Shockingly, for this price, it is tri-mode. Obviously, it does track fingerprints pretty badly here, but that doesn't really matter to me on a keyboard. Has some support feet. And interestingly, this little sort of gap here, that's just sort of like a hollow space there on the front, which gives you a little bit of support here and a space for them to drop their logo. But let's go ahead and jump into the pricing and versions you can get of this keyboard. As you can see here, there are a couple options. You can go wired or tri-mode. So the version that I have is the tri-mode, but I have the shine through standard keycaps. That would cost you $49 here. You can go as cheap with the wired version as $39, and then there's probably about $2 off, $2.50 off with a discount code I'll have in the description, or 10% more off here with their GK10 summer sale. And the most expensive version you can get is still only $54 if you want the topographic keys that are side printed with the tri-mode. So honestly, this keyboard tops out below $50 if you're using 10% off, which is pretty awesome. And I think the shipping is very cheap too, sub $4. One thing to note here about the keycaps, the ones that I have are ABS, so they do feel a little bit cheaper. I had wanted the side printed topographic keys for the PBT, but I forgot the ABS was the top print, and I wasn't really feeling topographic when I asked for this keyboard. Unfortunately, I have ABS, but I'm sure these feel much better, and I'm probably going to put some keycaps on this pretty soon just to see how nice it feels. Beside that, we have the 65% layout with 8K polling, very low latency, rapid trigger down to 0.01, 32K scan rate, which is plenty, believe me, snap tap as well, and the switches are also hot swappable, which is a feature that I've come to really appreciate. This page doesn't seem to have in-depth info on these Otemu switches here, but if we jump to AliExpress, we can see these are the Otemu Peach Crystal Magnetic. They have a 40-gram initial bore, which is not the lowest, not the highest, will prevent accidental presses, and total travel distance 3.5 millimeters. Going back to the board itself, and yes, we can quickly check out this sort of like side ribbon here, something I never put on my keyboards. We can check the build quality, and this is actually a very light, like it feels a little cheap because it's all plasticky, but it's really well built. As you can see, I can't really cause any flex with it, which is pretty impressive, especially coming from something like the Yunzi RT80, which had an insane amount of flex. Overall, for as cheap as it is in both price and materials, it is very well built, and I'm pretty impressed with it. Coming here to the keycaps, it's not double shot PBT on these, it is just ABS plastic, and I'll show you the shine through here in a bit. It's not the most impressive on these ABS keycaps, but you get what you pay for. And then switch-wise, whoops, again, this Otemu Peach switch, nicely boxed, very stable here on the stem, not a lot of wobble as you can see, and north-facing RGB. I would classify this on the quieter side of switches. Spacebar itself, not the quietest, but also not the loudest. There's a bit of rattle, but it's honestly not terrible, especially for the price. It does not bother me in use. And then popping it off here, you can see this rubber here directly below the plate. I think it does help with some of the sound dampening. Let's grab ourselves a weight here with my former Amazon FBA scale. Shout out to not making a single dollar and a lot of work. We've got this thing coming in at only 1 pound, 5.7 ounces, which translates to a not so hefty, roughly 632 grams. I do believe that makes this the lightest keyboard that I have tested, or at least that I have actually made a video review for, which in use doesn't really matter, but you can tell. I can toss this thing up and down here and it feels pretty cheap. A very light keyboard indeed. But let's hop over and check out that not so sick RGB. In reality, the lighting on this appears much brighter on camera than it does in person. It looks actually sick on camera. Not sure what the explanation for that is, because in person it's rather dull. It has like a nice little ambient feel to it between the keycaps, but the ABS keycaps that come with this typeface here on top, there's not much shine through. As you can tell here, the light isn't actually really coming through these keycaps, which I found to be interesting as they are advertised as shine through. Like there's maybe there's the slightest bit of bleed through there, but they just, I mean, on camera you can see they look gray. I think with the topographic this would look pretty cool, but if you're going for this version and not the topographic, obviously the lighting and the keycaps are not the keyboard's strong suit. I do like the form factor. Obviously an interesting play by them to put this here. It just sort of makes you feel like you're using a Wooting 68 a little bit more, which I can't really blame them for doing that. Kind of makes sense. Imitation, sincerest form of flattery. Beside that, always love a 65% layout, 68 keys, because you get those arrow keys back, which it really bothers me using 60% keyboards that don't have that. I love a delete key. It's not here. It is what it is. I'll deal with it. So the form factor is fine. Not my favorite, which is 75%, but I can hang. Jumping into the software, this is compatible with QMK.top, the web driver, but I don't like that thing. It bothers me. So I'm going to show you the desktop driver, which realistically is just a desktop version of QMK.top. So I don't know why I didn't go to the web, but anyway, this does all the things you assume it does. It's a software for a keyboard. You can change your travel settings down to, I have it on 0.1 here for actuation on WASD for my very sensitive movement. And also an odd thing, you do have to scroll down here. AI in keyboard software, it's NVIDIA calculating our whole lives. Anyway, you have to scroll down here, but that's where you can get the rapid trigger 2.01, which I have set for all of my keys, just to make sure we don't get any accidental actuations. Then we have the advanced key settings here, mod tap, DKS. I have snap key set to A and D, as you can see here on the screen. Other settings are just for anything wireless, basically. So again, we can assume this is always running at 8K pulling because there's nowhere in the software to change that setting. The standard function layer settings, macro editing, as well as the light settings here, as you can see, just for verification. I do have it on max brightness, what I was showing you there. And that's about it for the software. It's pretty bare bones, it's pretty straightforward, and it gets the job absolutely done. I don't really have any complaints here. It's fine. You can select individual or group keys here, which is always nice. We do have anti-accidental trigger mode as well as RT stabilization. As far as the performance of this keyboard goes, and yes, I am still using my ATK duckbill, it was very good. I was able to perform to the best of my abilities with this keyboard. Hopping into Fortnite and testing the movement keys that I had set to minimum actuation, you could see as soon as I move the key here, it would actuate, which is exactly what I was looking for. But when hovering my fingers on the keys, I wouldn't accidentally press down the movement keys without intending to. So that's the exact perfect sort of sweet spot I want, where I don't have to really tweak the movement too much as far as super low actuation and rapid trigger. Snap tap also performed exactly as I would expect it to, as well as mod tap. The keyboard felt very responsive, and honestly, I was super impressed for how cheap this is. Side note, this does come in at $38 shipped with Prime on Amazon right now. Another great way to get this keyboard and test it out for a very low price. I continue to be shocked at how cheap this is for how stellar the performance comes across, which brings me to my overall impressions of the keyboard. I mean, like, is this top of the line? No, and it's definitely not trying to be, but do I have any complaints? Like, do I feel like there are any performance shortcomings that I would encounter if I were to main this? Also, no, I feel like I could hop into like Battlefield 6, Fortnite, whatever, and I would perform as well as I would on like a Wooting 80HE, on my main Monsgeek M1 V5 TMR, on my tried and true M-Shows Jet 75. Like, there's nothing about this keyboard for roughly $40 to $50 or even cheaper sometimes with coupons that would really hold back my performance at all, and that is absolutely incredible. Does it have the best sound? Does it have the best feel? No, and you'll hear that here in a little bit in the sound test. This feels better than a lot of budget keyboards. Like, it feels better than the Win68 Max HE out of the box. Even with these ABS keycaps, it feels better. And I've had keyboards cost 2 or 3 times that had more rattle on the spacebar, that had just a more like obtrusive, annoying sound to the keys when I was typing and playing. So honestly, I'm absolutely blown away by this, and this is my top recommendation for a keyboard in the super budget range right now. You can get this a little bit cheaper than like the A68, the A60 Pro from M-Shows, for example. So if you're looking to go really bare bones but get absolute maximum performance, I'm gonna go ahead and say this is the keyboard for you, which I did not think is what I would be saying when I read your review this keyboard. Side note, this was sent out to me by Gamakay for review, but all my thoughts and opinions are my own. So yeah, overall, very, very impressed by this keyboard. Nice, refreshing review here after my last one really let me down. Not the Monsgeek, but the Yunzi. I love Yunzi, I'm sorry. I've seen very positive reviews of that keyboard from other people, but I just had a really bad time. Not sure why. So as I said there, not the best sound, but honestly, not really offensive at all for how affordable a keyboard is. Some keyboards, I'll type in them and they just bother me. This is not the case at all. Really inoffensive, completely usable. No real complaints from me. I don't really think it profiles as like overly clacky, or like maybe it's like the cheap side of creamy. It's not thocky, it's not clacky. It's just a keyboard sound, honestly. It reminds me of some old office keyboards I had. And in my opinion, that's not really a bad thing. Anyway, that about sums it up for my thoughts here on the Gamakay X Naugh NS68, a very budget-minded but very high-performing Hall effect keyboard. Interestingly enough, that may have been the first time I said Hall effect in the entire review, which, I mean, that's the point. I guess we're only reviewing Hall effect keyboards here on the channel. But overall, an amazing value in my opinion, and a very strong recommendation for me, once again, in the super budget range. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on X at DasherJack, and do check out the Mousecast podcast on Manfluengy's channel. We do it typically live about once a week. You can also check out my DasherJack peripheral Discord server. And with that, we'll see you.